Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, and thank you for joining me at tonight's broadcast. Now, tonight we're going to have a little bit of a different format. I will actually be interviewing our Canadian guests first, and then we'll go on with some issues that are now being talked about at the kitchen tables of every American citizen across this country. Our American guest is an attorney, and he was unable to make it tonight due to some legal issues that he is dealing with, so we'll have him on at another date. But at the end of the broadcast, or towards the end of my interview with our fine Canadian guest, we'll be talking about a host of issues that are now affecting this country in such a way that it needs to be talked about. But one issue I want to talk about before I invite our Canadian guest on is the fact that you really get tired of government officials boldly and blatantly lying to you. Now, I can't prove what I'm about to say, but I'm going to leave it up to you to decide whether I have come to conclusions that are accurate. And it regards the physical health of President Joe Biden, President of the United States of America. Now, today, his doctor released his examination report of President Biden. And the doctor says that President Joe Biden is vigorous, he's tough, he's strong, he's ready to go, and he's fit to be president of the United States. He's fit to serve this country as the commander-in-chief of U.S. military forces. Like you, I don't wish any ill will on anyone. And I would hope and pray to God that the doctor is absolutely right. I don't want to see anybody sick or ill, even whether they're president or whatever. But folks, I don't see that. Maybe anybody out there sees it? I don't see a president of the United States who is got it all together physically, mentally, emotionally. I mean, our eyes don't lie. And I've got to tell you, if I ever needed a doctor, I will never go to that doctor. I like to find out what his name is and just put it up on our screen. I mean, you know, why is it so hard for people to tell the truth? Why is it so hard for even a medical professional to say, hey, look, there are some issues here that we need to discuss. We need to let the American people know and then move on from there. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But when I see our commander-in-chief of U.S. military forces, who has the ability to launch a nuclear strike on another country, forget things, seems to be unaware as to where he is at times, unable to answer questions, and then lie after lie after lie with regard to a lot of crisis our nation is dealing with. Now, look, I don't belittle the guy. I don't want to do that. I'm not like that. You know that. But I like to call it as it is. So my point is that we have a very serious problem. And I'm sure those of you in Canada are well aware of it because you have it there. In fact, all of the countries around the world where people are fighting for their freedom are getting so inundated with lies and propaganda that it's just mind-boggling what's going on here. But we've got to call these people out. We've got to let them know that we're not stupid, we're not dumb, and we're going to be courageous. We're going to be courageous to stand up and speak out when we see things wrong. And we will make the necessary changes moving forward within the framework of the law. But I mentioned that tonight, first and foremost, because I've gotten a lot of emails about it. And maybe I'll expand upon it a little later. But now we got a great guest. We have a Canadian patriot who, by the way, when I spoke to her a few minutes ago before we came on the air, explained to me that she's pretty much connected to no one. She's on her own. She decided to step up and speak out about certain issues in her country. And now what I'm going to do is interview Tiana. Here we go, Tiana. And I probably messed your name up again, so please.
No, it was perfect. It was perfect. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight. And I know that a lot of Canadians across your country know you, but there are people in this country and around the world who are watching that don't know you. So could you please share with our audience just exactly who you are and what are you doing involved in this freedom movement?
Well, my name is Tiana. I'm originally from former Yugoslavia. Now I'm half Serbian. Lived in a refugee camp in Switzerland for 5 years, and then 26 years ago we came to Canada. And so I integrated as a Canadian, loved Canada, became pretty much entrenched into the Canadian culture, loved hockey and loved the bantering with hockey teams and stuff like that. And then I started to notice a little bit, around, I'd say probably 8, 10 years ago, that certain ideologies were creeping into Canada that I learned from past mistakes that Yugoslavia made, breaking up people. I started to notice it. So when we rolled around, I really started to get scared that as Canadians in a democracy, we start seeing and losing our freedoms. So I spent about 2 years in jail for speaking out, and then I got a TikTok account, and surprisingly, one of my rant videos about basically where we're headed as a country morally and everything viral, and now I find myself pretty much reporting a lot of news and sharing a lot of the research that I have researched myself regarding history, politics, and various other subjects that relate to everything that we're seeing right now.
You know, what fascinates me is that in speaking to people here who were from the former Soviet Union and the Soviet bloc countries, speaking to them and speaking to you, you saw it firsthand. I mean, you actually lived, and I'm sure your parents and other relatives have lived firsthand how it is to live under the fist of communism. Do you see traces of that coming into Canada? Do you see, based on what you see happening in your country, traces of a communist influence?
Absolutely, especially with the laws that are coming in that are not being transparently shown to the citizens. That is the main concern that I have for Canada. We have laws that are being passed behind our backs. We have politicians that are not being voted in, they are being placed in. And so seeing this slowly totalitarianism crawl in, and also the separation of the people via extreme ideologies on both ends, is quite frightening, to say the least, because it is the stepping stones to communism and to complete control. Basically, I see China-style communism coming into Canada, creeping in, and at a much faster rate since 2020.
Interesting you say that, because we here in America see that happening. And I've got to tell you, it seems like China, the Chinese Communist Party, has targeted North America, in particularly Canada and the United States, because together we become the strongest bastion of freedom worldwide, both of us. And it looks like they have launched an aggressive propaganda campaign against the United States of America and against Canada. And I've urged people, and I'm going to ask you to follow up on what I'm about to say, is to not spread the news. In other words, when you get information that is not credible, not accurate, when you get information that is more suggestive and opinionated, just to delete it, because we have found through some of the research that we've done that a lot of that is coming from the Chinese Communist Party. What do you say about that?
I definitely agree, because I feel China has infiltrated through basically ideas, and ideas can be spread far and wide very quickly. And I believe China is trying to internally break up the society regarding ideas and certain things. So I see movie stars with Marxist and communist books and promoting communism as if it's a great thing. And someone who comes from communism, I can tell you it is not. It is not a great thing. And then also the attack on capitalism. That's another odd thing that I've seen lately. A large group of people attacking basically what runs the entire world, and then not fully understanding and not fully understanding capitalism, not fully understanding actually any of the platforms that are out there. And they only base it solely on memes. And I feel that social media has done more damage in that sense, because memes are very short. People's attention spans are getting much smaller. And so they're getting educated through memes, not realizing that there is a lot more to basically all and everything. And that is what I'm trying to, on my TikTok page, is really show people the true history of a lot of different subjects, because I feel that most of history has been changed now, basically to put a narrative, and that narrative is taking us straight to communism.
There are many young people. I haven't heard much from your citizens regarding college students, perhaps high school students, getting involved in the political process. Now, here in America, we have thousands of colleges, but we have like the conservatives, we have college Republicans, they have college Democrats. I mean, there are so many people in the younger realm of things who are now getting engaged and involved. But I haven't heard much. Now, maybe you have, so I'm asking you a genuine question. I haven't heard many young people in Canada stand up and say, hey, look, this is bad stuff going on in our country.
I heard a little bit now lately with the mask mandates, but it's mainly a breeding ground for liberal ideology in all of our universities have seemed to take it over, and they seem to be silencing any opposition. That includes professors, teaching assistants, even students who are speaking against basically liberal ideology are being punished in the sense of either job loss, social outcasting, and online name calling and so forth. Basically being bullied into the liberal ideology versus anything that morally you would stand with that goes against.
Before we go on, that individual who just signed on from Mexico, please email us, okay? We want some individuals to speak to from Mexico because you are part of North America. So we'd love you to you have your chance to come on and you'll have your chance to speak to a lot of people. So don't be frightened by me saying that. I'm going to put up our website address and you could email us through our website. So those from Mexico or that individual from Mexico, please, we'd like to hear from you. You see, I tell you, we get people from all over the place watching. So but you see, Diana, this is what we do, and you're a part of it. I'm looking at you as a grassroots person, a regular, citizen of your country, who decided to stand up and do something about the problem. And what we've urged people here is to the best of their ability, don't get depressed, don't get upset, don't get worked up. We, the people, for freedom and liberty, outnumber all of those opposed to us. We really do. And you mentioned something earlier when you said, well, social media. Yes, it is a big problem because people seem to get emotionally involved. They'll read something and right away, just right away without thinking first, without checking anything out to see if it's true or not. But we could use social media, as we have here and some of the broadcasters in your country, to decimate the mainstream media, to literally destroy them. And this is what we've seen here. Our live stream on this broadcast is far and wide, and there are hundreds of others like us here in America. In Canada, I know you got some up there, but my thought is that we're winning and the opposition of freedom and liberty are losing.
I feel the same way, and I actually did a video. I think they're speeding things up. I think they're getting lazy. I think that they are basically not calculated now. And therefore, they're shaking up even the most asleep citizens into seeing that something is wrong and something is off. And I believe that now, especially in this critical moment where we are in a war of information, it's so important for us to vet everything that we read. And I believe that it is important for each person to take the responsibility of what they read. And I urge everyone constantly on my TikTok page to not get emotional, to stay calm, because through calm you can think rationally, and rational thinking you can plan things very well ahead. And so I always urge everyone to basically do their own research, and I know a lot of people don't have the time, so I have put it off on me because I do have a lot of time. I'm a very big introvert. I don't really do much except read. So I took it upon me to really kind of go through the step-by-step of teaching people how to think critically, how to ask questions, what to look for, where to look for. And I'm trying to put that on a easy sort of 3-minute videos where people can tune in and see what is happening in the world and hopefully get the resources that they need.
Now, do you have a podcast, a broadcast where you do some research and then get on the air like what we're doing, either regularly or quite often?
So I have TikTok where it's super easy for me to go on there. I also started my own website, truthseeker01011news.com, and everything on there, I just need to start start writing articles. However, it's just me, and my videos seem to be going viral, and it's absolutely frightening because I'm getting so many messages and I don't know which way to go. But I do also have a Rumble page where I am trying to keep up weekly.
Well,
Attempting.
that's good news. If it's starting to go viral, that means people are listening, and there is a hunger for truth. There's a hunger for credible information. You know, I've talked earlier before the broadcast. We vet everybody before they come on the air, and I'll tell you, we find a lot of crazies out there. A lot of people that are out of their minds, and they're willing. What is astonishing is that they're willing to go on a broadcast and spew out things that are either not true, not verified, and it hurts the cause. That's what my point is. It hurts the cause, and the opposition is watching and laughing.
Exactly. And I've had a lot of people approach me with a lot of crazy ideas. And I am open and transparent with them. So I don't even say, no, I'm okay. I genuinely tell them the truth. I tell them that they're crazy and that they will hurt the cause. And if they continue to do this, that I will put them into the light, even if they are supposedly on our side. But if we make it rational and very push, I guess, forceful like movements, there are even certain people on our side that don't like that. And that's how people get lost. And that's why I feel during the truck protest, everyone was so peaceful. Everyone was getting along. And I think that's why it had such a big success. And I understand that there were propaganda on all sides trying to basically discredit everything. But I think in the end, it did bring a lot of people together, a lot of families with kids that were out there with the hockey and ice skating and street hockey games. So
one of the challenges we've had here in America with regard to addressing issues is getting people united, getting the heads of all these groups together. Very difficult task because you run into the turf battles, who wants to be in charge, and we've overcome that by simply, we have, like in Campaign for America, in our bylaws, we don't partnership with anyone, no one, because we have a strict mission and we stay focused on our mission. And so we have that problem here in America. And when we got involved with the issues that the Canadian people are facing, we began to get that same problem from some of the people in your country where who wanted to do this, who want to do that, what I did. And I began to realize that we share similar problems. And the issue is down to unity, uniting, have some idea that it's the mission of freedom and liberty that we should be fighting for, and not for who's going to get the credit. And we've overcome that to a great degree. Looks like you've overcome that to a great degree. Now, what about this? If you could share with our audience, especially for the American people, what are some of the pressing issues right now that are very critical in Canada? And I'll tell you one right off the bat that is very, very critical to the security, at least I believe, of the United States, is the Bill C-11, the censorship of your communications in and out of Canada, the internet, media, etc. Can you tell us where you think your country is at that point with that issue?
yeah, so Bill C-11, basically it passed the Senate, but with the amendments, it now has to be passed back to the House, and they will vote on the amendments. And to be honest, I'm afraid of what is basically being passed because the Liberal government doesn't like to follow rules. We're not even sure if any of the amendments will apply. Even if they're passed, they don't apply legally. So with the gun grab that they made, basically they're saying that the RCMP will come into homes and grab guns, but they don't have a plan, they don't have warrants. So basically everything being done very sloppy with the Liberal government. And now we're also afraid that with Bill C-11, even though he's saying, well, it's just this and this and this and this, that he will encompass a lot more under that umbrella without letting us know, and that he will slip it in the background. That is basically the scariest aspect of having a government that does not tell you truthfully what they want to amend and what will be under the umbrella of certain laws that they are passing.
What I find hard to understand is the fact that the liberals in your country, the people who are trying to take away the freedom and liberty of the Canadian people, I find it hard to understand that they don't realize that the whole world is watching, that they are in fact they're going to destroy themselves in that country. They're not going to destroy the country. I believe the people who love freedom and liberty will prevail. Uh, they always do throughout history of any country. You cannot take freedom and liberty away from people successfully. It's not going to happen. The idea is in America, and I would hope that some of your country leaders are listening, because I know some of them are watching, and if they're not watching, some of their operatives are. Uh, in America, we're concerned about, those of us who are peacefully addressing these issues, that people are going to be taken to the streets. Now, in America, out of 300 plus million people, there's about 299 plus million people armed, right? We do have a Second Amendment here. What frightens me, what bothers me, is that if we as a government, don't begin to control the narrative in a way that we welcome everyone to sit at the table and to talk and to bring the country together, I fear that in America, and I know a lot of Canadians may fear the same thing, that we're going to end up like Venezuela, like Brazil, like the darn marches and violent confrontations in these other countries. So here at Campaign for America, and I get from you too, is that you want to keep the lid on that pot that's steaming, right? We want to keep it on there. And this is why it's important that you're on the air, that other broadcasters on the air, letting people know, look, we got to do this right within the framework of the law, and understand that although we're dealing with evil, which we are, good always prevails. So I just can't wrap my arms around the fact that, there are leaders in your country, as well as here, who have to understand what they're doing. They're going down a very dangerous road. And B, that the Chinese Communist Party, who has a great influence in this country, as well as in your country, is going to, at some point, dismiss them. In other words, they're not communist. Canadian leaders who are liberals are not communist by blood. Maybe they believe in the ideology. Same thing in America. The Democrats here, who have cozied up to the Chinese Communist Party, by blood, they're not communists. They're not card-carrying communists. And what I know about the Communist Party is that once they use you, they get rid of you. And they've got to be real careful the road that they're going down. So that's what I can't wrap my arms around. I don't get it. I don't understand. At least here in America, they live in this country of capitalism, of freedom, do what you want, go where you want. And pretty much Canada, never on our radar, peaceful, loving country. I mean, that freedom convoy you guys had, we thought it was a great event, really. The peaceful people that projected such a loving people around the world, it was a wake-up call to what's going on. So how do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel about your leaders going down this road? And you know what? We have a job, including them, to put kind of that lid on that boiling pot.
Yeah, and this is just me, I have no real proof of this, but I feel like they want to provoke people, and they want to push them to the point where there is just this huge outbreak of sides fighting on both sides. There's so much propaganda being thrown on both sides. There's provocateurs on purposely saying, well, this is the only way we need to go about this forcefully. And I keep telling people, I came from a war-torn country. I know what happens after everything settles. It's just pure chaos. No one understands what happened. No one understands who was at fault. Everyone feels ashamed. And then what ends up happening is the third-party group that is making all of this happen, basically comes in and takes control. And so that's not what we want. We want to do this in a calm manner, in a legal process, so that they can never basically attempt to do this again, which is basically go into backdoor ways to change our laws in order to either land grab 15-minute cities, change laws, change freedom of speech laws in very mischievous, sinister ways.
You know, here in the States, and I notice it in your country too, because I get a lot of the feeds now, and I get a lot of emails, is we've warned people in our country that when they get on social media and they start telling the world how bad things are, how depressed they are, how frightened they are, they're feeding right into the enemy's, all right, the opposition's narrative. They're watching this, folks. They're watching this broadcast. They're watching everything we say and do. And when they hear, at least in America, when they hear Americans on the air or they see what they're writing, I'm depressed, this is bad, this is terrible, we're going to hell in a handbasket, you're handing them a victory. A victory, and you said it all, Diana, you said it all with propaganda. They're saying their propaganda is working. Now, if you notice, folks, and Diana, we did this, we're stepping up our social media presence addressing communist China. We're going to be stepping that up, as well as your country. I mean, Canada, we're not done with Canada yet. In fact, we're not going to be done with Canada for a long time, because what I have here in my hands is the summary of what we call Project Make Believe. And hopefully within the next few weeks, I'll tell you what it is. It's a research project, a research and educational project to heighten the awareness of our leaders as to what's going on in Canada. And in our view, we believe that what's going on in Canada is becoming a clear national security threat to the United States of America. Now, we can't by law get involved in your internal affairs regarding your government. We can't do that. But what we can do is fully engage what's going on in Canada with our government. And so we're going to be meeting with congressmen and some senators, and we're making arrangements to meet with some political leaders here to make them very aware of what's going on there. And everything we have, there's a few hundred pages of information that we put together, all open source information, no secrets here. But when you start connecting a lot of dots, you begin to realize that something is wrong, very wrong, with regard to a country north of us. When we see some of these bills and some of these pieces of legislation that they're passing, in particular concern, of course, is C-11, but the other one that's alarming, and it's alarming here and it's alarming there, more so up there, because I've never seen in my life in any free country where police storm a church and drag a pastor out, or attempt to drag him out, like they did with Pastor Arthur, and then arrest him. So what I like to hear from you about this thing, the ideology, you lived in a communist country, the ideology of the Communist Party. In the old days, it was the Soviet Communist Party. Now it's the Chinese Communist Party. The first target, freedom of religion. Go after their God, go after their churches, lock all their priests, pastors, and everybody who worships up, and they've got nowhere else to go.
Exactly. I actually heard a story from a pastor I went to church with. He went to China, and he said they weren't allowed to pray or basically have any religious books. So these people in tiny village, they had to travel almost an hour, hiding their Bible, to go into a basement to pray. And he told us, now imagine that they walked an hour every time they wanted to pray, and how easy we have it to just go here and pray, and that we can pray basically anytime we want to. And so when 2020 rolled around and they started to close off religious buildings, I thought that was very, very odd, and also against many of the Christians that live in this country, basically against our will, against our religious rights. And then also they did not have anything for religious exemptions in Canada for regarding the vaccine. I thought that was absolutely insane, that they did not have any forms out there where we could give our religious exemption. And everybody I spoke to basically told me they could not find anything online where we could ask for religious exemptions regarding our own medical choices and our own body autonomy.
In the United States during COVID, non-essential establishments were closed down. But you know what was essential? Liquor stores. Non-essential, churches, closed them down. It caused a firestorm here. And I believe now laws are going to be introduced to prevent that from happening again. But when they did that and classified churches as non-essential and said it's okay to have liquor stores open, well, it was all about money. It was all about bringing the tax dollars in from liquor stores and close down their right to worship. And so again, those political operatives watching and your connections to the liberals in Canada and the Democrats here, do you get that what you're doing now is going to affect your children, your grandchildren, that you're going to enslave them? You're going to enslave them to a communist ideology that'll put them, if not figuratively in prison, but literally in prison. I spoke to some former citizens of the Soviet Union who belong to the Catholic faith. They told me some startling, chilling stories where they would go in to worship and go into confession. In the Catholic faith, they have a little booth. They go in and there's a screen where the priest cannot see the person who's praying and confessing their sins. And they would open their hearts out to the priest and then get arrested because the priest was a KGB agent. This is what we in America, and I've shared with my fellow Americans, this is what we're headed for. We're headed for that. During COVID, we had mayors in cities, New York in particular, urging people to take pictures of their neighbors who were violating the 6-foot distance rule. We had police departments allegedly with drones flying over private property, taking pictures of people who may be having barbecues. Luckily, we have a constitution here that was upheld in just about every court in the land. So all these charges brought against people were thrown out, thousands of them by the courts. But my point is this: it got that far. It got that far with these little tyrants, these little dictators, decided that they were going to take control of the people of this country, and they failed. And in your country, I'm seeing the same pattern. I'm seeing the same thing. But what we're seeing in our country regarding Canada, and what I kind of feel that the Canadian people don't see, is that you guys are winning. I mean, you guys in Canada are winning. It's slow, it's sure, but what do you think? I think you're winning.
I think we're winning as well, and a lot of people are coming together. And as Canadians, we are very calm, and we do things in a much calmer way. I know there are a lot of people out there that instigate things, but Canadians are usually very level-headed people. And so here in Alberta, where I am, I've seen communities now, especially my 15-minute videos, come together on and really come together as tiny little communities. And they're starting to even work with their mayors, because the mayors didn't realize that they were being used as basically bait to bring in these UN changes. And so we're seeing communities really come together, smaller communities, larger communities, counties come together. Everyone's starting to everybody on the law, what's happening, and we're bringing a lot of things to light together. And I know it's a slow process. I tell people the legal process is very slow. It's a large ship and it takes to turn around, but we want to do it properly so that when we finally do turn around, we're going in the right direction.
Well, you're certainly an asset to your country. You're an asset to the movement of freedom and liberty worldwide, not only in Canada. And I'm glad you came on. I want the American people to see individuals like yourself who are grassroots. And we've urged people to do what you're doing. Bring cities together, bring communities together, bring leaders together. And that's how we win. You know, there's a biblical scripture that says what man meant for evil, God meant for good. And I see a lot of good coming out of what's going on here in North America. So before you leave us, do you like to say anything to the American audience and the Mexican audience and the Canadian audience and on and on? Would you like to say any last words?
I just wanted to say that we're all one people, and I love our American neighbors. You guys are awesome, and we support you, and we're happy that you supported us, especially throughout these 2-3 very tough years. I see a lot of support from Americans, and Americans willing to adopt me as well. Basically adopt a bunch of freedom-loving Canadians in case Trudeau goes a little too far. So I just wanted to say that truly Americans have opened their heart and their arms to everyone, and that your northern neighbors love you.
Well, thank you. And I hope they do adopt you. I'm going to be an orphan for a long time because politics here is very, very, very tough. But we're going to have you on again, okay? How about that? All right?
That sounds great. Awesome. Thank you.
But thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And again, God bless you in your efforts. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, wasn't that pleasant? A pleasant conversation with a Canadian patriot who's really picked up the standard on her own to move forward. So, and you know what she said? Something that a lot of your citizens are saying in Canada. You guys are winning. You're winning. It may not seem that way. It may not seem in that way. Hey, look, remember, folks, the story in the Bible when Moses got to the Red Sea? He said, boy, look at this. We're losing. We're not going to cross this Red Sea. The Egyptians are coming. They're going to slaughter us. We're dead. We're done. It's over. Well, we know the end of that story. The enemy was defeated and destroyed. Walk by sight, we're losers. Walk by faith, we're winners. That's what the Bible says. Now, what I'm going to do is just speak briefly about what's going on in America. A lot of emails, a lot of people are concerned about what's happening here in our country, and I'm going to get right to it. Number one, let's start with Ukraine. Now, yesterday it was reported, and this is something that I stated months ago, one thing that we feared, that the Ukrainian government would decide to launch any type of missile attack right into Russia. Now, there has been some bombings. There have been some, I would say, minor attacks south of Moscow. But yesterday crossed the red line, not according to Lieutenant Steve Rogers, but believe it or not, according to the United States government. Because apparently Sevastopol in the Crimea came under attack, an air attack, with some Ukrainian drones. That was reported this morning. Now, here's the problem with this, folks. The United States of America is arming Ukraine. And I will continuously hammer away at the fact that the United States government is using Ukraine in a proxy war against Russia. We should not be involved in that war. We should have limited our assistance to them and then passed it off to Europe. Look, I don't want to see any country get away with bombing civilians, killing innocent people, children, etc. Russia is dead wrong when it comes to doing that. But so is Ukraine. Ukraine is doing the same thing. All right. And an attack on the Crimea, an attack on Sevastopol, just highlights the fact that this is absolutely insanity what's going on there. And I've asked the question of people in the United States government, could anyone who is cheering on the war between Ukraine and Russia, will somebody show me on a map where have there been gains? Where has Russia gained anywhere? Where has Ukraine gained anything? Nobody's gained anything. It is the innocent people that are being killed. And I've said all along, we've armed the Ukrainians, we've given them money, now we have advisors there, and I hope to God the next step isn't ground troops, but I will tell you this, folks, hear what I'm saying. If Ukraine decides to launch missiles against Russia, I'm talking about Russia proper, real estate in Russia, I believe the United States will be dragged into a war that we are going to be unable to get out of. And I tell you that, folks, because those missiles, there aren't Ukrainian missiles. Those weapons are coming from us, from the United States. So I think it's high time we let President Zelensky of Ukraine understand that there is a limit to what we can now do. We got to be concerned about the United States of America. We got to be concerned about our national security. And if you need weapons, you need troops, go to Europe. Why? It's in their backyard. American blood has been spilled all over the place on this planet, and it's got to stop. So Europe, stand up. You want a war? You want to get tangled with Russia? You want to defend yourself from Russia? Then step up and do your part. Because the United States of America should not be involved in any foreign wars between two other countries. I didn't say that, folks. You know who said that? The first president of the United States of America, George Washington. So with the new Congress, I know now there are committee hearings being established to begin the process of defunding, if you will, the war in Ukraine with American dollars. So that's going to put Zelensky in a tough spot, isn't it? He's going to have to wake up and realize that, you know what? Sit down and talk. Now, Russia at times, they say they're not going to sit down and talk. Zelensky don't want to sit down and talk. I heard the same song and dance during Vietnam. It was the same song and dance during Korea. It goes on and on and on and on. And obviously the same sheet of music between the Soviet Union and the United States when Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev were in office. but they did come to the table because they realized there was no way out. But in the eyes of Zelensky, we've given him a way out. We've given him a way out where he actually believes that he's going to win this war. So I get a lot of heat when I stand up for what I believe is right. And look, I'm not on Russia's side. I'm not on Ukraine's side. I'm on the side of the United States of America. And if we continue to feed and feed and feed that war machine, we're going to end up feeding our own young men and women to combat, and we're not going to be able to get them back. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, President of the United States, warned about the United States military industrial complex. That's what he warned about. And nobody seems to want to listen here. Moms and dads in America, start hugging your kids. I'm telling you, I'll say it over and over and over again. Vietnam Chapter 2 is right over the horizon. You might want to keep an eye on that. Now, the train derailments. Well, what's going on? We have one in Detroit last night. We have one in South Carolina, Texas, and of course, the catastrophe going on in Ohio. Now, I bring that up for this reason. So I tweet out the fact that FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management people here in the United States of America, was asked by Governor DeWine of Ohio for aid. And FEMA said, no, you don't fit the framework of a tornado, an earthquake, or a natural disaster, so you're not going to get that aid. Now, of course, the liberals here, the Democrats and the Biden defenders jumped all over me. Oh, you're telling us it's not true, it's wrong. DeWine says things are going great, et cetera, et cetera. And somebody even posted a news interview of the governor of Ohio saying, well, the government's responding, et cetera. Now, how could it be that we're getting from our sources, which are extremely credible, one story, and then the Biden administration put out another story with the governor allegedly saying things are fine, we're getting help? Here's what I believe happened. I believe that the right hand does not know what the left hand is doing. I believe that our sources are correct, that FEMA did in fact turn down Ohio and their government, turned down giving them help. But I also believe that the CDC and other organizations did say, we're sending you help. You see, this is what happens when you don't have a leader in office who is in charge and getting the story straight. Confusion, fear, division, anger, frustration. This is what happens. So the American people, again, to my fellow patriots in America, we need to wake up, and we need to stand up, and we need to do exactly what needs to be done. What we did in this last election cycle is start to go and remove every single Democrat from local level to the White House out of office, every single one of them. But, there are Democrats that are mayors, that are city council members that don't agree with the White House. Why should they go? They should go because they don't have the guts, the courage to stand up and challenge who's in the White House and who's in Congress. That's my beef with the unions. I was a union president. That's right. A lot of people don't know that. I was president of a police union. So I get it. Unions fight for the rights and the benefits of their members. But when it comes to America, you need to stand up and fight for the rights of your country. We got union leaders, and I'm not talking about the members. They're great union members. I know many of them. Some of my relatives are union members, whether it be carpenters or iron workers, etc. So this isn't about the members. It is about the swamp in union leadership who are doing what? Who are endorsing and supporting the very people who are taking your jobs. They're taking food off of your table, for goodness sakes. So you get a crumb, you get a few bucks more, all right? A few bucks more, a couple more vacation days, that's okay. Because when the administration gets through with you, you're going to have a big vacation, a lifetime vacation without a job. The job and unemployment rate in America is soaring. I posted the other day, my wife and I, 2 days ago, went into a supermarket here. And the first time in my life, I saw signs where there was rationing of foods. In this case, eggs, and another case, meat. in the United States of America in the 21st century. Trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars going to Ukraine and other countries to do what? To continue a war, to continue the problems that those countries are having, to put my money, my tax dollars into the pockets of dictators and tyrants. And my children and grandchildren are going to have to face shortages of food. This is what the Democrats have done to this country. And may I add, and here's the part where I get into trouble with my own party. This is where Republicans who have not had the sheer guts to stand up and to really vocally go after these political tyrants. And you wonder why we, the people, don't trust government, whether you're Republican or Democrat? You wonder why we, the people, have absolutely no use for you? But we, the people, outnumber them. And that's what we, the people, need to do, is to come together, as Tiana said in the interview, come together, start educating each other. The greatest fear that American politicians have, and I'm sure Canadians and everywhere else on this planet, the greatest fear they have is if the people wake up. Get 10 people to a city hall meeting, they shake. They shake. The politicians shake. Why are they here? Are they here to get after me? What did I do? Did they find out? Believe me, folks, I've been there. I was elected to office. You know that. I know how politicians think. And I know how they work. And they begin to tangle with the mothers and the fathers and the aunts and the uncles and grassroots Americans and Canadians. They're going to be in trouble. All they got is their propaganda, folks. Believe me, their lies, their propaganda. They get on the internet. They go ahead there. They get on the internet. They're on there every day spewing all kinds of bad and false and divisive information out. And unfortunately, a lot of our people, whether you're in Canada, Mexico, the United States, we suck that in and say, oh my goodness, look what's happening. The sky is falling. We're dying. We have no future. We're countering that by deleting all of their garbage, and we're putting on the air, this is who we are, this is what we are, and we're coming for you. And we're coming for you. You liberals, you Democrats, we're coming for you. We're coming for you in every neighborhood, in every state, in every province, in every city. We're coming for you. And we're coming for you by using this and this. We're coming for you because we're better educated. We're well aware of the powers we have within the Constitution of the United States and the citizens of Canada within their Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We have the law on our side, and we have learned to use it in a peaceful way, in an honorable way, in a dignified way. Peaceful, honorable, dignified. 3 words that Justin Trudeau does not have in his vocabulary. 3 words that Joe Biden does not have in his vocabulary. 3 words that the liberals in Canada and the Democrats in the United States do not have in their vocabulary. And then we have something even greater. Yep, something even greater. We have a faith in a God that has blessed our countries. He has blessed Canada. He has blessed America. And I said that all along. It is not by any mistake that Canada and the United States are under a vicious, unprecedented attack by people who are opposed to freedom and liberty, opposed to capitalism, and opposed to religious freedom. That's right. I said it. Opposed to religious freedom. So we're not only fighting a political war, we're not only fighting an ideological war, we're fighting a spiritual war. This is why I've implored pastors, get up, for goodness sakes. Get out from behind your pulpits. What are you afraid of, for goodness sakes? Fear cripples you. Fear paralyzes you. And we have nothing to fear because we're on the right side of the law. Use wisdom, yes, but don't hide. Don't hide and run, my goodness. Stand up. Like some of the great, great leaders that you've seen on the air here from Canada and from the United States. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. And where freedom is, you're going to find that flag and that flag flying proudly over a people who will remain free So, folks, those are some of the rights. We got Russian fighter jets have been flying over Canada the past, Alaska the past few days. They were intercepted a couple times. I don't get it. I don't get it how we now have, well, I do get it, and I'll tell you why and how I get it. So now, for the first time in decades, Russian fighter jets are flying within an air defense zone of the United States. They were intercepted. They're probably going to come back tomorrow. And then we have the great balloon story. Folks, hey, you want to make money? Buy stock in balloons. They're going like they're being sold like off the shelves like never before. So now you got, we find out that one of our jet fighters missed the first shot at the balloon. And then we had to admit, well, okay, we hit it the second time. And then we've got the balloon, I think, in the Yukon that nobody can find now. And then we find out today that, the U.S. government was tracking a balloon from China. They actually tracked it, launched from China all the way across the Pacific. But we didn't do much about that until the government of the United States was embarrassed. So we got all these balloons flying around, and the White House decides, well, maybe some of these balloons, this is something that was reported, folks, are from private companies, maybe used car dealers where they had sales with balloons going up. And now tonight I read a company, I'm not going to name it because I got to get it confirmed, but pretty much credible. Some company said, well, we think that the government shot down one of our advertisement balloons. I mean, folks, it's again, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And the Chinese Communist Party, they're just laughing and laughing and laughing. We got Iran warships on their way to the Panama Canal. That ought to be great when they arrive. And the story goes on. You know what this is the result of? Weakness. When you project weakness, this is what happens. The United States of America, under Ronald Reagan, projected strength. He knew clearly the way to defeat the Soviet Union was to become the strongest military on the face of the earth. When we were the strongest military on the face of the earth, none of this was going on. None of this. So we got to get back to that period of time where we are the strongest military on the face of the earth. But we got to do it not alone. America first is good, but it doesn't mean America alone. America must truly partner itself with Canada. And hopefully we'll be able to eliminate the cartel in Mexico and bring them on board as part of North America. And this has to be the United States, the shining city on a hill, with a few more light bulbs in that tower of hope and freedom, like Canada, Mexico, and other countries, where together we fight the real enemy, which is communism. That's what we need to do. And you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We've always done it, haven't we? The one difference between now and years ago is the internet, as our guest said earlier. We never had social media. We never had the internet. We never had the deluge of pain and suffering inflicted on us through the media. I'm like you, folks. I read something on the internet on my phone. Holy smokes. Then I stop. Whoa, check it out first. But it does get to you. You see people beating each other, fighting each other, kids beating each other up in school, people getting shot and killed. I mean, animals being tortured. I mean, all this stuff being thrown at us. I'm going to ask you to do something. Try, all right? Took me a little while to do it, but I did it. When you wake up tomorrow morning, folks, do not look at the news. Do not pick this up if you don't have to. Just don't do it. Have a nice cup of coffee. Talk to God. Talk to your kids. Talk to anybody, but don't let this talk to you, because that's how your day is going to start, and that's how your day is going to end. Begin, as I say, begin with the good Lord. Pray, maybe get on your knees a little, maybe read a Bible scripture, but feed your soul, feed your mind, your heart, your soul, and your spirit with something nice, something pleasant. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what that'll do for your day. So that's it, folks. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. It was a great guest tonight. Now, next week, I will not have any guests on. I'm going to give you all an update on what's happening in the United States, what's happening in Canada, and some other places around the world. We want to put what we've done during the course of a month. We want to put it all together at the end of each broadcast at the end of each month. And then in March, we'll go right back to having guests on. And then the last broadcast in March, we'll do the same thing. Kind of puts everything together, folks. Okay. So look at folks, I want to thank you for a few things. The certificates that we sent out, the partnerships, the freedom, all of them have been mailed out. A few thousand, believe me, it took quite some time, but we finally got them all out. If you did ask for a certificate and didn't get it, now it's important you please do this. You see the website? Just send us your name. Your correct spelling of your name is important, and your full address. We had hundreds of people send us requests for certificates. They didn't put their zip codes, and we had to go all the way back to them. Okay, and I know people are in a rush. So if you want a partnership, a Freedom Partnership certificate, they're for free. Just right there, go to our contact information bar and put your name and your address in that narrative, in that part where you're supposed to fill stuff out, okay? And we'll get it out to you. We'll get it out to you as soon as we could. Secondly, also when you go to that website, if you could help us with some support contributions, please do so. I want to thank many of you. When we made the appeal last week, you responded, and what a help. I mean, what a big help. So I continue to ask that you consider sending us some financial support. And I said all along, these politicians go out there, they get millions of dollars. People are writing checks out like crazy. And what are they getting for it? Nothing. But we want to believe, and we do believe, that we here at Campaign for America have provided a lot to the people around this world, America, Canada, wherever, with regard to information and pulling people together to fight for freedom and liberty, not only for those of us living today, but for our children and grandchildren. CampaignForAmerica.com. Go to that website when we hang up here. You want a freedom certificate? They're free. Just give us the information that I've asked for, and please consider a small contribution. It all adds up. That's it, folks. Thanks for joining me tonight, and we'll see you next Thursday night. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, and God bless you all.